the sunniest time of the year, December. And with that being said, we're going to look at NES Godzilla Chapter 2, Pathos. Pathos was the same as Jupiter's layout, except the board was dark blue rather than green. The first thing I noticed was that all the usual level icons had been replaced by a blue rock and some kind of orange honeycomb shape. There was one icon that had part of a jungle icon shape, but I didn't pay much thought to it. I checked the other side of the board to see a new monster. Instead of Hedorah, it was Biollante. But that couldn't have been right. Godzilla vs. Biollante didn't come out until 1989, and this was 1988. Perhaps they'll put Biollante in the game to build excitement for the movie next year, but change their minds? I tried to rationalize the game's normalities any way I could, but this would prove to be futile. Pathos Map Song was the first new song I heard in the game. Like most of the new songs, it was hard to describe. I'll try. It started off slow and suspenseful, much slower than any song in the game. But every 12 seconds or so, there would be a loud flashing sound, and the tempo changed. It was like the composer randomly played parts from 5 different songs with the same instruments. I moved Godzilla over to one of the many blue rock icons that had replaced the jungle icons and started through the level. The level resembled a blue mountain range with a blood red planet in the sky. But there was something odd about the mountains. They had a shredded paper look to them. I thought at first maybe the glitch had affected it, but it looked far too intentional. I quickly noticed something else about this new level. There were no enemies at all, not even any obstacles. I should also mention that this was where the point meter started to become glitched beyond comprehension. It didn't bother me much. I never keep up with the game points. So without having to focus on anything, I listened to the music while walking through the level unopposed. The music had a sorrowful feel to it. The music had a sorrow feel to it. It would have been rather pleasant had I heard it in a normal game. The level went on for 3 screens, but with no obstacles around, I finished it very quickly. I tried other levels of the game of the same type to see if any enemies appear. There were none. There was little else to be seen in the Blue Mountains, so I tried the other level types. I started one of the orange levels, and my eyes were assaulted with a grotesque background of tumorous orange eyes. The sky was the same as the ground, so I assumed the game was indicating that this level takes place in a cave. The only enemies here were Mantango Spawn, but as you can see, they were everywhere. The music certainly didn't help, with a mixture of screeching sounds and loud drum beats. It sounded like a monster scene in a horror film. After completing it, I tried to avoid playing any more of these levels whenever I could. The map was short, so it was only a few minutes before I headed toward a rematch with Godzilla and Moguera. But this time, their sprites and attack patterns were vastly different. I fought Moguera first. Moguera's replacement was a flying machine with a slight resemblance to a Pascagoula alien. It was a bit like fighting Mothra, only it moved with a lot more grace. It attacked by spinning its front tentacle like a corkscrew, and it still had an eye beam, except now it fired from the drill. This lanky aberration had replaced Godzilla, and the new beast was more of a challenge. It would run and jump at a fast pace, constantly swinging its arms around, making it hard to get close. And of course it tried to pin me in the corner with as much annoying resolve as ever. I defeated it using a combination of tail whips and heat beam spamming. I defeated them and was going to fight Titanosaurus, but when I started the fight, Titanosaurus was nowhere to be seen, and the game simply went back to the map. The Titanosaurus, I did it again, with the Titanosaurus piece now missing. There was no one left to fight now but Biollante, so I eagerly started the battle. I was surprised Biollante started the fight in her rose form. She was immobile and used tentacles to keep me away from the main body, which took the most damage. As expected, she turned into her final form after taking enough damage. The sprite looked pretty damn good for 8-bit. The battle technique was the same, except now Biollante could move, albeit slower than any other monster. Being hit by the tentacles did more damage now, and Biollante could do an acid spit, which I managed to avoid by jumping in the screen cap. Not much more difficult to beat than Titanosaurus. It only took 2 rounds, but when Biollante was gone, the music had stopped and there was a new icon replacing the bass. Jeez. Cat screw these papers up. As expected, she turned into her final form after taking enough damage. The sprite looked pretty damn good for 8-bit. The battle technique was the same, except now Biollante could move, albeit slower than any other monster. Being hit by the tentacles did more damage now, and Biollante could do an acid spit, which I managed to avoid by jumping in the screen cap. Not much more difficult to beat than Titanosaurus. It only took 2 rounds, but when Biollante was gone, the music had stopped and there was a new icon replacing the bass. Jeez. Cat screw these papers up. This icon wasn't there before I beat Biollante. It resembled a red tribal mask, and I had a feeling of dread when I saw it, but since it replaced the base, it must be the only way to exit Pathos. I moved Godzilla to the square and started the level. It was a hellish looking place with no sky and a flickering fire in the background. The fire looked more advanced than anything I'd seen on the NES. There was music in the form of a slow, steady drum sound resembling a heartbeat. All the text on the top of the screen and the life bar were gone. In their place was a single bit of text in the middle of the screen that said, "Run." My feeling of dread had intensified. I cautiously walked through the level, but like the Blue Mountains, there were no enemies. I paced around for a minute before thinking, run? From what? The first time it hit me, I didn't even see it. I heard a noise outside my room and turned back to see if something fell, and when I looked back, Godzilla was dying. It must have been a glitch. I figured it must have been a glitch, but I wasn't going to play through the game without Godzilla, of course. So I restarted the game and went back to the password screen. Have I ever mentioned how creepy the password screen music is? If you've played the game, you know what I mean. It doesn't at all fit the mood of the game. It's more like something from a horror game. Maybe they made it so kids wouldn't cheat. I was quite annoyed at this point because I thought I was going to have to fight all the monsters again. But that didn't happen. The game started me off right where I was before I started the red face level. So I tried again, making sure to pay attention this time. That's when I heard a low bellowing sound. And then I saw it, this thing. Do you know that feeling your body has when you feel like you're in extreme danger? You start to recoil and tense up as the adrenaline flows through your veins, and your nerves start to feel very cold. That's the feeling I had when I took this screen cap. Alright, I'm out there, page 6. I hadn't seen all the Godzilla movies, but I'm pretty damn sure this was never in any of them. It had to be something the creators made up. By sheer dumb luck, or perhaps the adrenaline boost, I managed to run fast enough to get away from it. It ran very fast, so much that if you saw it, you were almost certainly going to die. And when I say die, I mean your monster gets killed instantly if the creature touches them. Once I had gone back to the map, I was so afraid that I was extremely tempted to just shut off the game and pretend it never happened. I couldn't believe what I had just seen. It couldn't have been real. No way. And even if I wanted to continue, I still had to get Mothra through this chase level. But I stayed inactive. But as I stayed inactive on the map screen for a few minutes, my fear was replaced by burning curiosity. What the hell just happened? What was the rest of the game like? I had to beat this level with Mothra, and then it was on to the next world. But when I moved Mothra to the red face, the game registered it as me beating the level. I was quite relieved. I tried to prepare myself for the next world. Trance.
The cameraman has just retired. For now.